Hello everyone. My name is Alfred Irimaso. So model view controller design pattern is a software architecture pattern that separates application into three major components. That is the model, that is the view, and that is the controller. And this makes it easier for the developers to manage and maintain the code base. So quite often it also allows for the reusability of the components in as far as different applications or different views are concerned. You find out that sometimes you have different views, and for some reasons you want to use the same model. So in that, you'll find out that you can just reuse the same model that you created for the different for the various previous program, if at all there is any. So that is the reusability of the different components. So basically, the model view controller design pattern, it specifies an application consisting of the data model, the presentation information, and also the control information. So we have the data model part, we have also the other part of the presentation, but we also have that mid section of controlling. So in this, the pattern requires each of these separated into different objects. So we shall find out that we basically need the MVC because it breaks our application into three, just like I've just said. So meaning it is easier for us to actually maintain or even upgrade each component at a time. So you can decide maybe to modify the model, which handles the data, which we say that is the data model, the model part, which handles the data, or you decide to modify the view part, which is what the users see. In simple terms, the model, we could say that maybe the model is the back end, and then the view part is the front end, and then we have the controller, which is the one that connects the two. That is the front end and the back end. So with the MVC, we are able to update the model, and with MVC, we are able to modify the model and independently, and we also can modify the view independently, and all the two are connected via what we are calling the controller. So this makes it easier for us to work on each part separately, and this actually can support even other development life cycles, software development life cycles, like for example agile, or you look at maybe coming up with one module at a time. Okay, so the diagram displayed here, we are looking at the model, then the controller, and the view. Now, we have view as the user, or as the person interacting with our application or our program. And in that, what you're interacting with directly is the view. What you see is the view. And then we have the controller part. Once you do something, probably you want to say, maybe I want to retrieve this data. Now, the request is sent to the controller. So the controller is the one that knows how to interact with the model so that it can pick what is necessary for you to see, and then the view part, the view program, the view, uh, I mean, now we are able to, once the controller retrieves data from the model, through the model, it has requested some information from the model. So once it has retrieved, it just sends the information to the view, and that is what when you are able to see, and it comes as a reply in simple terms. So you send a request and you receive a reply. The request goes to the controller, and the controller is the one to send the reply. The information, it picks it from the model. Once it is not available, then there we just say that maybe the communication was not successful in one way or the other. If at all you are using maybe Java, you may just get an exception, or if at all it is handled well, then you can just see maybe the error message according to the wish or the plan of the developer himself that developed that. So we can maybe go to look at the we can look go to look at the we can look at the practical bit of it. And here I have some simple program that I have designed. All right, so that is my simple program. If I can expand this, excuse me. So I have my application here. So this is an example just that I've just created. That is the student manager or for student management. So we are going to be capturing the student name and the marks of the student. So in this, I just come and type maybe the name of the student. Let me just use my name, Irimaso Alfred. And in this, I can come and say maybe Alfred has gotten maybe 89 in an exam. So once I click on the add student, now we have the controller part, I mean the controller behind. So once I click on this add student, this data is going to be received by the controller, and then this controller is going to send the data to the data model. That is the model part. So we have the view, which is what we are seeing right now, and in the mid between before we reach on the model, that there is a controller. The controller is the one to get to know what to do with this data that you have created here. Or even once you click here, it gets to understand what to do. So once, for example, I click here, the model, the controller will receive this information and it will send it to the model, yeah, to the model itself. The model can be the database, the model can be maybe a receiving script. I don't know. But as of now, I don't have a database behind, but is a script that just automatically retrieves the data directly within my application. So once I add any other student, for example, I just say that the student is called Wycliffe and that is the student, and maybe I say this student has maybe 85. Once I add, you see, the student is added directly. So what we are seeing here, ability to send, to type and send. What we send, it goes to the controller, and then I have my script that is retrieving what is stored within the data model itself, and it will display the information on the view part, in simple terms, what we are calling the view. All right, so maybe we can go to look at how the code that is actually managing all this is arranged, so that we can be able to maybe understand all the architectures and the likes. I mean all the arrangements of the program that we are talking about. That is maybe how the design pattern now works in the real space. Okay. I'll share my my Visual Studio Code, and there we are. Okay, so that is my Visual Studio Code. So here I just have my main file, main.java. And this project is called MVC Student App. So this is a student application, the student management application that we are seeing previously, whose interface we are seeing. And this application, generally what it does, anyway, here I just have decided to I have imported the model, I have imported the view, and then I have imported the controller, of which these are the different folders that we are seeing here. So every component that is working on its own, every component that is performing a certain function is stored in its own place. Now, like for example, if I just talk about the view itself, let's start with the view. So when I come to the view we have agreed that this is majorly uh, what the users see. The users, this is what the users will be able to view or to see on the other or on their side. That is the front end of our application. So in this, I'm just using the Swing library. That is the Java Swing library that is helping me to create the user interface. And in this, we just look at me creating private library, private objects from the libraries that I've just imported. And the first one is the name field, the mark field, and the button. We have just been able to see those two. The name field is what is going to capture the input, the input of the name field. Then the mark field is what is going to pick from what I have inputted, what the marks that I have entered on the user interface. And then the button is the button that once you just click, then something happens. And we are saying that it is called the add student. And then the display area, this is what what is going to help us to display the marks that you have entered into the marks that you have entered on in our program. So right now I just have a function that is controlling everything. This is just a method student view. And this student view is just helping us to display the title of our application. And all these other things are elements that we just use to control the size and the size of our application window just on once our application is running. And so below here, I'm trying to call the input, create the input object, of which input object is for class JPanel. And in this, it is helping me to create the text fields. The different items on on the user interface. So on this, I just have the label, which is name, and it is being captured from here. And you see, I'm passing in the object, the name field object that I've already created up. So on the second one is just the mark label. This is the J label. J label is just like the label, the way we do have it even in HTML. So the J label that is displaying my that is giving a description to the my marks field, and also we just have our simple button. And then lastly, we have our display area. So literally what is just right here is the description. We are defining what will be on the front end or on the user interface. So that is the view in simple terms. And then here I just have my method, and this method is capturing the name of the student, get student name, and we are passing it on to the name field in simple terms. Because we said you can look around, we were using the private access modifier, meaning these other these other objects may not be accessed directly within our outside this other class that we have just created, the class student view, which is extending the JFrame. All right, so that is it. Get student name and get student marks. Those are just the methods that are picking the input. And also we have the method that is helping us to control what happens on the button itself. Okay, so we have another class that is just void, and it is returning, it is just to display the data that you have entered onto from the user interface. The data that you have entered, this is what helps us to display it. So it will be picking from the controller and it displays on the user interface. So be mindful that this is not actually the one that is controlling. That is picking data. It's on its own from the data model. That is why we shall need, in one or the other, we shall need the controller itself. So that is it. By default, there is nothing in our fields. Okay. So once you submit the text, then once you submit the form, you click on the add form, then the fields are supposed to be emptied by default. And even when you are just loading the application, the program, there is nothing that is displayed. So that is the model, that is the view part of it. you realize it is simply in its own folder, in its own program. So if at all this was a bigger program, we could be having many more applications, many more files within the view folder. Okay, I just leave the view alone. Now we move on to the data model before I even go to the controller. So in the data model, I just have we agree that this is just where our logic will be, our data storage will be. So in this, I'm just importing in my arrays and lists so that I can be able to handle multiple elements at the same time. And I've created a class called the student model. And this student model, it is having a list of students. We have just created a list that is empty as of now. And I'm creating a method, of which method it is it is just having it is just calling on the students students list that we have just created up, and it is passing in the array list. So implying that in this is going to be holding the list items. So we have now the details of the student, which are being handled from this side, where we just have the name and the mark of the student, and we are creating a constructor just right here that is helping us to update the name within this class. And in that, we say that because we have the private access modifier, it means that we may not update them directly, or even calling them directly, but that is why we are creating another method that is returning the name. So in simple terms, once we just want to access what is stored in the name, this getName method is the one that is going to be helping us to output that information. Same applies to getMarks. So if you are adding a new student, this method is the one that is actually that helps us to perform that. So in simple terms, it is a void method that is called add student, and it receives two it will receive two parameters, two arguments. That is why you are seeing these other two parameters created in here. And we are saying that student.add, meaning we are just adding the student array, the array list, a list of two items. So this is like a two-dimensional array. So we just do have the name and the mark within our list. So we can have multiple items, but all of them will be a pair of two, the name and the mark. Okay, I hope we understand ourselves. We just get to understand that. And then we just do have something we are calling to display our our students that have already been entered. So once you just enter anything, so this method is going to help us display everything that we have all the data that has been entered within our what. So this is what respond is now to the this is now I just put a disclaimer. This is not what displays response is directed to the view, but this instead respond is to the request from the controller. All right, now I just close that at that. Now we have seen the back end, that is the data model or the data controller, and we have seen the front end, that is the view, that is where what the users see is created from or is managed from. So it means that we are able to update the model on its own. We just update everything that is just this side without actually interrupting what is within the view. So you see, that is why we just have the different, them as different components in simple terms. So we can update one component at a time. But now these two components, they actually cannot communicate as of now. So that is why we just need what we are calling the student controller.java, which is the controller of the two. We're just helping these two components to make sure they can communicate. So that is the controller. So in this, I make sure that I have my model, and I also have my my view. I have my model and I have my view. And in this, I have my action event. So this is what is controlling now what happens on the button. The same applies to the action listener, action event and action listener. And then I just have the J option pane, which is the one that determines what is requested now is displayed, or what is picked from where. That is the J option pane. And then I do have now the description of my controller. Now you just look at this. I just created an object of my model and my view. So in simple terms, I just want to create, I want to connect these two. Okay. So in this, it will be picking, I have just created a method here, and this method is going to be picking, this method is going to be picking the model. It is going to be having the model, the student model, and also the student view. So this is where the connection now comes in. So we pass in the to the model what actually we are just passing picking from these other parameters. So we are in simple terms updating them. Still, you just realize that we would need this other constructor just because we have a private access modifier up on the object that we have just created. So on this, we are just saying is this dot view dot get add button. So in simple terms, we are just controlling now what happens on the button itself. Once once a user clicks, then it means that they have initiated an action. We have initiated a click event, and that click event has to be controlled from this side to understand what is supposed to be done in simple terms. We actually have an error controller also, which we are calling the exception controller, that is helping us to display errors in case somebody maybe clicks a button and they have not entered anything within their input fields. So this method is just helping us to add a student. So it is picking what is entered in our name field and also what is entered in the marks field. But before we just submit, we have to first check if the two are empty. So if name is empty or if mark is empty, then we have to create a dialog box or a message box, and we display that we display to the users that they have forgotten to enter the marks and name, so they have to enter both of them, and then we shall return that message. And if maybe this is not true, now we just come to try. Okay, so we just try and we say we just get, now we have created a double variable here, and we are passing in what we have picked from the user, what we have just picked from the from the information added from the interface, and then we are calling this other function we just looked at. This method, we looked at this method within the model, the model file or the model component. So, and we agreed that this one will just be taking in, it is a list that will it will be taking in a pair of name and their mark, and then we just update display. That is the display that is being updated within this other the other section of where we are displaying the data that we have already entered. And then we are also catching up with the error, which, for example, the mark must be a number. So in case this is helping us to capture the error in case somebody puts in maybe a text and is not a number within the marks section. And then we are also picking in now This is the implementation of the update display, and this method is simply to update now what is in the what the user has entered. So in simple terms, this update display, it is the method that is helping us to display the information up the other side. I will again demonstrate this. I will again share my screen on the user interface, and we see how actually it is now running. Okay, so now I just come and run my application. I just run my application and we see how it displays. Okay. All right, let's display this. Okay, so now you can see my screen. This is my student program. This is the user interface. Now this is the view that you are seeing. Once I enter something like, for example, Irimaso Alfred, and I just say maybe he has 80, maybe 90, and I click on add student. So the controller is going to pick this information and it updates the model. Now, after updating the model, it still picks the information now that is so far in there, and it displays it on here. Now that is the update display that we are seeing the other time. So when I just click on that, you see the information has been updated. For example, if I just come and I say maybe Nuwaheleza Wycliffe, and probably here I just come, instead of putting the marks, I just say maybe trace. Okay, if I just run that, it will display for me the other error that we are just saying, that the mark must be a number, something like that. Those are the exceptions. And if I decided to put nothing inside here, it will just be displaying for me that please enter both name and mark, just as simple as that. So that is all about the MVC. I hope I have shared enough. We have taken some good time, and I hope this video has been descriptive enough, and probably you have tried to figure out or catch up what the controller is, what the model is, what the view is within the model view design pattern. To sum it all, just remind us the MVC is simply a software architecture pattern. So it is simply like the procedure that guide the professional software development, so that we can just create reusable components. We create easy to manage and maintain code bases for our softwares. I thank you all. See you next time. Thank you.